I was just wondering if you're doing anything Saturday night.
No, I don't think so.
Would you like to go out with me?
No.
Jonathan Moore is a young man with a problem.
You are without a doubt the biggest animal I have ever seen in my entire life.
Does that mean no?
He goes to Paris on vacation.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?
He meets a mysterious woman.
I like virgins.
You do?
In an even more mysterious line of work.
What are you, a spy?
Yes, I am a spy.
He follows her to Berlin.
Hey!
Now the CIA is after him. The Russians are trying to kill him.
Russians?
He's having the vacation of a lifetime, if he lives.
Gotcha. You're a regular James Bond, man.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to Cinemarcade. This is the show about movies, video games, and the sparks that fly when those worlds collide. Today we are talking about Gotcha, one of the weirdest combinations of movies and video games that we will probably ever talk about on this show. I'm very excited to get into this. I'm 17-year-old hairless Weirgin Steve Guntley. Weirgin. Who else is joining me today? For those who can't see this, they're pointing at each other. This is an audio medium. We're having a
I'm J-Ban.
I'm Justin.
Welcome everyone to probably the show I'm going to have put the most effort into ever. This is bizarre that this game took so much effort to finally actually all get together, which we'll get into why, but. This is a real bizarre oddity. It's also kind of a milestone for us because this is the first time none of us have seen this movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, none of us have seen this movie. None of us have played this game until today.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so totally new. And I think there's good reason none of us have seen this movie. This is not a findable movie. This is not an easily accessible movie in any way. A lot of you are probably listening at home or looking at the title of this episode and thinking, I don't know what the hell this is. You're not alone. The movie we're talking about today is called Gotcha with an exclamation point, all right? And this is a movie from 1985. It's directed by Jeff Kanu, and it's written by Dan Gordon, and it stars Anthony Edwards, Linda Fiorentino, and Jesus Garcia, or as he was known back then, Nick Corey. This is a pretty tough movie to describe. Right? This is kind of a hard movie to classify.
This movie has like 4 phases, and each phase is basically a different style.
Yeah.
And so it starts off with, I'll just say, something that probably can't happen on college campuses anymore.
At least not in this form. Yeah. But, I mean, the weird thing that we're going to be talking about today is a mix of erotic sexual thrillers for teens and paintball.
And
2 things that go great together, apparently.
The third thing that always goes with paintball is also spy thriller.
Oh,
yes,
of course,
spy
yes,
thriller.
espionage. Yeah, lots and lots of that.
But the opening scene is basically the main character at the college campus that he goes to school at. Him and his friends have come up with a game where it's like playing tag but with paintball, and there's no rules, time limits, bounds, whatever. It's just whenever you can get the drop on the other guy and you shoot them, you got him. You go, gotcha, and that's the name of the thing. And so they're like, it's like the early hints of like the secret agent thriller of it follows the main character as he's like hiding around corners, waiting for his buds to come by, shooting them in the back. At one point, he commandeers a wheelchair and rolls down a wheelchair ramp just so he can pull the gun out of his shawl and shoot his friend as they're coming towards him.
Yeah, he's perfectly
like,
comfortable hanging out in garbage cans.
Yeah. Nobody else knows what the fuck is happening.
And
they don't care.
His prowess
at paintball is unmatched. His prowess with women.
Oh, it's
Easily matched.
Easily matched. Any of us could match it. Yeah, yeah,
I-
100%.
I would go as far as to say that any of us could surpass.
I mean, you haven't seen me trying to lay game, as they say. That's what they say. They say
Lay game.
laying it down quite flat is what
Look,
they call
his
it.
like
Yeah, I should be single and alone forever.
his like key thing to say to women to try to get a woman is, I would literally kill or die to sleep with you.
Which, I'm going to say it, comes across a little desperate.
A little creepy?
Tiny bit desperate. I'm like, come on, buddy. You're a weird looking
But-
stick bug of a man. You can get a better lady than that.
The end of the paintball montage is basically him like scaring the shit out of a girl because he's shooting his friend in front of her, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And then he just goes, "It's a game. You want to come back to my place?" Or no, she's like, "You got paint on my sweater," and he's like, "I'll make it up to you with dinner. Let's go get dinner." And she's just like, "No." No.
This girl's going to be a pivotal part of the creepy denouement of this
Oh
movie.
my
The
god.
denouement.
This
I want to take a step back
so many
and
creepy undertones.
talk about the cultural phenomenon that is being captured in this movie. All right, so this game that he's playing was a real thing. This was sweeping college campuses in the early 80s since about 1981. They call it the assassination game. And it was basically happening in college campuses everywhere. In fact, this is not the first movie made about the assassination game. There's another one called Tag! The assassination game. Both of these have exclamation points in their title, which is pretty amazing. That one focused on rubber darts, which... so that makes this movie the first time paintball has ever appeared in a film.
Oh.
So that's a noteworthy landmark. Okay, here's the weird connection that I'm going to draw. I watched a little bit of Tag the Assassination Game today. It's free on YouTube, unlike this movie. But all right, here's the fucking
Closely
weirdest,
guarded
craziest thing ever. So Tag the Assassination Game. First of all, unrelated to anything, it's directed by a guy named Nick Castle, who you might better know as Michael Myers in the first Halloween.
Oh, wow.
So a hulking tower of a man who directed a couple of weird movies in the 80s. That's a digression. The star of Tag the Assassination Game is a guy named Robert Carradine. You might better know Robert Carradine as the lead of Revenge of the Nerds from 1984. Gotcha is from director Jeff Kanu, the director of Revenge of the Nerds, and it stars the other guy from Revenge of the Nerds, Anthony Edwards. So the two leads of Revenge of the Nerds have both starred in games based on an obscure college campus game from the 1980s. That's crazy to me.
But which
That's
one
a
was
crazy
creepier?
coincidence.
Crazy coincidence?
Ooh, I'm starting to wonder.
Was he
Conspiracy?
jealous?
The Tag is really bizarre because it's like trying to be a straightforward like noir thriller, but with rubber darts. And Linda Hamilton from Terminator is in it. Like I think it's her first role. Like it's crazy. But yeah, it's really bizarre. And this one I think is far creepier. But, that's just me. But yeah, that's kind of the big creative push behind this movie is that it's from the director of Revenge of the Nerds, which was this surprise hit in 1984. And his young star is joining him for his follow-up movie. And I don't know why he chose this topic as a follow-up movie. This is a very strange film. It's not available to stream anywhere. I had to buy an out-of-print DVD. This is a movie that is almost impossible to find. And I think even if you know this game, this NES game that accompanies it, you probably would have no idea it has any correlation to a movie. Because the game itself has absolutely no relationship to this film. I'm going to get into the whole reasons why, but first I want to talk about the movie itself and what we all thought of it. Let's go around the table here. What did we think of Gotcha?
Clockwise or counterclockwise?
Either or.
direction
Whoever's feeling bold.
I don't know if I'm gonna start my full synopsis, but I just think it's interesting that they, yes, I'm a grown woman and I want to have sex with an 18-year-old. It's like, okay, fantasy world.
One of the first of, well, not even the first creepy moment in this movie, but one of the more notably creepy ones.
I mean, look, it definitely wasn't, because right before that, so the main character and his friend go to Europe on a trip, and his friend is like pretending to be like an Argentinian or Algerian terrorist to pick up chicks, which is one
chicks love Algerian
bold
terrorists
strategy.
Yeah,
that is legitimately what he thought, was that chicks loved Algerian terrorists. But then that whole thing between the main character and the other main character was just like, oh my! As soon as that was happening, I was like, this kid is being groomed.
I don't know about them being groomed. It's like, he's of age, but the only thing
very
is
eager,
very eager. But I think, like, what is her mind? Is she trying to get a patsy from day one? Is this her hobby? Like, did she?
I think maybe both.
So the characters we're talking about here is Anthony Edwards playing Jonathan Moore, who's the hapless college student who's really good at the assassination game. And he meets Linda Fiorentino's character, Sasha Banachek, who is a Czechoslovakian woman that he meets at a cafe in Paris. She's very sexy and seductive, and she likes the fact that he's a young, hairless boy.
A virgin.
And they have this whirlwind affair, and she encourages him to go to Berlin, where he gets involved in all kinds of spycraft and nonsense like that. And that's kind of the interest of the movie.
Just point out that she said that she was interested in 17 and 18-year-olds, and that's it.
Specifically 17 and 18, and specifically like smooth. Like that, she has a thing for smooth men.
Boys.
Yeah.
She called them boys.
She called them boys.
Which is... It's just creepy.
It's still creepy even if it's coming from a woman.
Yeah,
sorry,
whether you call
creepy.
them 17, 18-year-old smooth men or smooth boys, hairless, the whole thing, the whole combination, if you say it at once, is just weird.
It is.
I'm pretty sure the screenwriter was a man.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yes, he is.
In any way, shape, or
he absolutely is. There were two men. Yeah, two men.
But what I thought, so, I don't, sometimes when you watch something and you're like, well, at least it did that. I thought that it was interesting that they at least put them together over a course of a couple of days, that it wasn't just a one-night stand. Like, it was definitely, like, at least they had, like, a pretty montage of them being romantic over Paris.
Yeah.
Going to cafes and buying roses. But it was just, like, I don't know. Anthony Edwards is a fine person. But what does an 18-year-old Anthony Edwards have for a grown woman? I don't know.
I got to say, this character is kind of a jerk also. Yeah. Like he's like every ugly American stereotype, like as he's like tromping through Europe, like not knowing the languages and just being a dickhole.
Like legitimately, the moment before he meets her, when they're both in a cafe, he's just like low key and then eventually high key, like talking shit and being a dick to the waiter.
Yeah. He picks a fight with the border guard into East Berlin. Like, he's not smart.
He's in East Berlin for approximately 36 hours. Mm-hmm. He comes back and he runs to a Burger King
where he starts taking out all his aggressions on the poor woman working at the Burger King. I want an American chocolate shake. I want American fries. It's like, what a dickhole.
I will say, she convinces him to go to East Berlin with her because it turns out she's trying to smuggle something out. But when he finally leaves and he turns around, he asks the guy, he's like, hey, are we in the American side? Which one? It's, I guess, the American side. But the guy goes, yeah, we are. And he goes, good. Turns around and just screams, fuck you, and flips off the German side. Or
that was
the
actually
Soviet side.
One of the better laughs I got was the guard going like, I've been wanting to do that for 6 weeks. Like, that was pretty funny. Like, this is one of those movies that's kind of become forgotten because a lot of like younger people now won't have a concept for the idea that there were two Berlins.
I literally was like, wait a minute, when did the wall go down?
89, yeah.
Oh my god, this is pre-wall.
Yeah.
I'm not even pre-wall.
So it's kind of playing off of the same kind of Cold War anxieties that fuel a movie like War Games or something like that, which is like a much smarter approach to these kind of issues. But there's so much weird stuff going on here. I think this movie has a couple of issues. Firstly, it's got pacing issues because it takes a full hour in this hour and a half long movie for the action to kind of take off. Like, That's the first time we see like he encounters like a guy with a gun who's like chasing him. That's the first time we understand what the stakes for him are. And then there's not a whole lot of runway left after that.
I feel like he wanted it to be a coming of age story with a sexy European woman, and just added some like an espionage on top, sprinkle. But it was just so like the beginning with him being an insufferable college student going to his insufferable parents.
Yes.
And he's just like, I don't know. I have to say that Anthony Edwards is very charming, so
Sure.
he gets away with being insufferable a bit. But it's just really, it's challenging to connect with a character that is like, and he doesn't like, I feel like they could have made his rejections or like his protagonist energy a lot better just by giving him like, instead of just being like, oh, you're a creep. I think they could have just been like, oh, maybe he's just unlucky. He could have been lovable and unlucky instead of like,
or just lean into the fact that he's a dork, you know, like his whole thing and early on in the movie is that he plays this assassination game around campus, which, let's face it, is pretty dorky. And I think another one of the fatal flaws of this movie is that, yeah, like I think that opening 5 minutes where he's playing the assassination game on campus is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like they pace it like a thriller, and it's just kind of made more silly by the fact that it's paintballs. But like we get to see that he's kind of resourceful and he's kind of clever and like he's good at something. And then this does not come back into play until maybe the last 5 minutes of the movie.
And then also, I think the movie pretty firmly establishes at multiple points this kid has not grown.
No,
at all.
Not at all.
He hasn't
what is
learned
his
a
arc?
single lesson. And
his
like,
arc is that he lost his virginity.
Yes,
That's the entirety of
but
his arc.
that's the first 20 minutes. Like,
to what J-Man was saying too was like all of his rejections are all pretty clearly in the "hey, you're a creep" kind of category.
Yeah.
But also he has zero remorse at any point after being a creep to anybody ever.
So I rewatched Revenge of the Nerds last night in anticipation of this episode just to kind of review it, and I think this movie and that movie both have very similar points of view, especially regarding college, and it's still very much this old school kind of boys will be boys, wild frat college boy mentality where young men's only goal in life is to get laid, and all of the crazy things they say and do to achieve that goal are charming and hilarious. Not necessarily true. And I mean, I don't think it's just like modern eyes looking back at it. I think it's like, oh yeah, this is the problem. And the fact that these guys didn't realize it was the problem was more of the problem. Yeah, it's pretty creepy in both regards.
That's why I have to say that I do like the fact that like the Sasha was proactive in her sexuality.
Yes.
I liked that part. I didn't like the fact that she was like, ooh, smooth boy. I think they could have done without those lines.
Yeah. I mean, Linda Fiorentino plays like some of the best modern femme fatales. Like she's always really good, even in stuff like Men in Black. Like she's a very sexually aggressive woman, which is like she's better at playing that than most anybody. So
we've established, he convinces his parents to let him and his friend go to Europe. They go to Europe. He meets the girl at a cafe while being kind of a dick and being like left alone by his friend, who's apparently working the Algerian terrorist angle.
Also, he's kind of just a non-element in this movie until they casually reveal at the end that, oh, he's in a Latin gang. Yeah. Never mentioned once before until late in the movie. Like, oh, by the way, are you still in a gang?
No, even better. The exact phrase is, hey, you still a homie?
That's it.
And he's just like,
no.
Yeah, of course, man. Once you're in a gang, you're always in a gang. And I was like, are they talking about the gotcha paintball thing? No,
we're talking about
not.
Men with real guns.
Yeah, but
talk about who has a better storyline in a movie. We're like, what is this man's life?
Yeah, I want to follow this guy
the
around.
Algerian terrorist angle starts to make more sense. But they have this tryst around Paris, Jonathan and Sasha.
Yeah,
and have y'all been to Paris?
I have. Yeah, I spent a weekend there.
Yeah.
But the really interesting thing is, while they're doing that thing in Paris, it becomes abundantly clear that there is somebody following them and watching them, because that man is not trying to conceal it.
No.
He's like feeding birds with one hand, full body turned towards them, not the birds, and he's just like vaguely throwing bird seed in the direction of the birds while staring them both down.
I was gonna say it might be more conspicuous that he's wearing like an all leather outfit too, but the roommate I noticed was walking around Paris in leather pants. Which
Yes,
I
I
was like,
noticed those leather pants.
man, you are so sweaty and gross under there. Let me tell you, like you chose the wrong thing to be a tourist in. Like that's just a bad decision on your part. Yeah, so this all culminates with a kind of showdown back in America at Jonathan's college, and that's kind of where they managed to arrange the final setup to be. We learn that Sasha's actually an American operative for the CIA.
Did you all see that turn coming?
Yeah. But
I knew that she had to be working for someone.
Yeah.
And if she was trying to steal things from presumably the Russians, I was like, it could have been, I didn't think CIA, but I was like, she's working for somebody.
Yeah, it felt like the movie was trying to. This is not the type of movie that's going to like surprise you with, oh, she's actually a Russian assassin and she never like you never meant anything to her. They want to soften the blow a little
Also,
bit.
do you ever just call the CIA?
How did he know that number?
Dude, he just calls the CIA, and then
There were fewer phone numbers back then, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He
You
gets
can guess
like the switchboard operator, and the switchboard operator like just connects him to, coincidentally, the guy running the operation.
Yeah.
Like
That worked out well.
The guy's just like, he's explaining it. Nobody's believing him because this whole thing happened in Germany where he had to. She gave him like the code word of, hey, get out of town. He gets out of town. He was getting chased. He ends up getting away.
He gets all of his cards stolen, and like he's
Yeah.
trying to escape Berlin, and like all these guys are chasing him. Like the Linda Fiorentino's character planted a microfilm on his
Yeah.
backpack.
Yes, and the best part of the film, he gets to escape with some punks.
This was the best part of the film. I really enjoyed this. Like he runs into this German punk band, and they think it's rad that he's like fleeing from authority, and so they hide him in their van and smuggle him into Hamburg.
And they dress him up as if he was like a member of the group.
That was pretty great. They get this nice little reveal of him like in full like kind of glam punk outfits, and it's just like, oh yeah, these are chill people who are very nice to you.
Very
and that's
David Bowie.
There's no twist on that. It's just, yeah, these are nice people. And then he has fond memories and they sing a Randy Newman song together. Yeah, so, that was a charming little bit.
And then he gets his way to an airport. He gets back to the United States. Then he calls the CIA, gets the one person, and the guy's just like his parents don't believe him. Everyone's freaking out. The CIA guy's like, oh, don't worry. I believe you. And it's the creepiest thing. And maybe not the creepiest thing in the movie.
There's so many
but
creepy
it's a little
things.
creepy.
Yeah, it's competitive.
He also runs a man off of the road, and his parents think that he's a drug addict, even though what do his parents think drugs do?
They make you run people off the road and go to Europe, apparently.
And then, his place gets ransacked by the CIA, and then it all comes down where he has the meeting with Sasha that he sets up through his homeboy. And
Yes.
They do, this... I thought it was kind of entertaining game of, running Sasha and the CIA agents around different people
Right.
from the gang and whatever. We're telling them, hey, actually go meet him here. And then somebody would be there and be like, hey, no, go meet him over there. And so finally...
Did any of you throughout this whole thing just thank goodness for cell phones?
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
There are so many meet me here in an
Yeah.
hour. Oh, she never showed up. Here's a message from the German hotelier.
Yeah.
And it's it was like, oh my god, how do people exist before cell phones,
At one
before
point-
texting?
At one point, she literally tells him, hey, get on the train and meet me at this station. And he doesn't get off the train. She
dude,
gets on the train.
I made the
How
same-
did you time that?
Me and Ailish watched it this morning, and we're both like, how would you know not to get off the train? I would get off the train. I would say,
Also-
meet me at the station. I would get off the train.
How does she know, presumably she saw him and went on, but, it's clear that the train has multiple cars.
Yeah.
And the door was not open for very long.
Yeah.
She just, gets right on. It was super smooth, And I know that there's zero chance it would have been that coordinated. If it was me, I would have gotten there early.
Yeah.
I would have been like waiting around, twiddling my thumbs.
Yeah. The spycraft in this is all very loosey goosey. Like he meets a woman who's like acting as an intermediary. Then she gets killed by the assassins, which really doesn't play much into it. I think that's a big issue this movie has, is that we never get to see his gotcha skills like work at all. Like, and during any of this, we never get to see that he is resourceful and clever. He's just kind of scrambling the entire time.
I think that scene might have been the start of it, because so he gets contacted and he gets a message at the hotel to meet Sasha at a place. So he goes to that place and isn't met by Sasha. He's met by, if I'm not mistaken, one of the people who had captured Sasha. In Germany. In West Germany.
East Germany. East Germany is
Sasha
the communist one. Yeah.
get away from them. Like,
What?
she was taken by Russian agents, strip searched, and just like,
In like
Go on your way.
I want to throw one random thing out there, not to be pervy, but we see boobs in a PG-13
we
movie.
definitely know she was strip searched
This is
because we
this
see
is
a
an
lot of
early
them.
PG-13. They were still figuring it out. Apparently, some boobs are allowed.
well, it was funny because I thought the sex scenes were very tasteful, and then they just like random boobs during a strip search, and I was like, what? That's when you use your boob
That's
card?
when you use your boob card.
Like-
Yeah. Where do you get a boob card? Do you have to do you have to submit for one, or you call
How
it
do you
discover?
cash it in? But
It's like a swiping motion.
But like when he's up on that castle, he can feel that something's kind of fishy.
Yeah.
He feels that something's off, but he still gives what he believes is the thing, which is the pastry
Strudel.
the strudel that she had given him. And as soon as he gives it over, the guy who's been following, who is in on the whole thing, shoots the other person.
Yeah.
And that part didn't make a ton of sense because she was on that guy's team directly.
That's the other big problem with this movie, is that I don't think they ever really settled on a tone that they wanted to hit. Like, that's when I said it was hard to classify. Like, I don't really know if this is trying to be wacky or trying to be deadly serious, and it kind of lands somewhere in like this tepid middle ground.
Yeah, I
it's not
agree.
really either.
I did love the part where he was asked to meet Sasha in front of a butcher.
Yeah.
And he's just like, ding, 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 ding. He's doing the James
He's
Bond
doing the
thing.
noise, yeah.
And I was like, his name's Jonathan Moore, and at the time, the James Bond actor was Roger Moore.
right? Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, okay. I wonder if that I'm assuming that was intentional.
I'm sure, yeah.
With that reference and then the name.
Yeah.
But the castle, like, he's on top of castle, the lady gets shot, and then he does a decent job of, like, evading and escaping while the dude's legitimately shooting at him.
Yeah.
And then, like, he gets that moment of cool guy action stuff, and then the final showdown is, like, he gets a tranquilizer gun from the school because they were tranquilizing tigers early on.
Oh yeah, we missed.
I forgot
that.
about this.
That was a crazy early detail. Okay, so yeah, not really established very well, but Jonathan is a veterinary student. Okay, which is like, it should be significant for the plot in some way, but it really isn't. And his professor gives them a demonstration before spring break of how to tranquilize a tiger. He has a tiger in a cage in his classroom, and he shoots it with a tranquilizer dart after saying, "Come on, make my day."
And this whole time, the tiger is making noises that sound like a really bored Chewbacca.
Yes. And then I was a little upset because it's like, this looks like they really tranked a tiger.
I was like, they must have a
And
way to pretend to trank animals, because like they can't be tranking animals every time they show
The tiger was
animals
pretty
being
pissed.
tranked.
Yeah.
But it looked so real. I was like, is this like animal certification?
Yeah, I mean, they may
Or-
have like shot it with like a saline dart or something, but like that
So
tiger looked
rude.
upset. And it looked like it got hurt. Like, that would hurt to get shot with one of those tranquilizer darts.
I feel so bad for the tiger.
I did too. But it does set up like kind of a Chekhov's trank. You know, it's like we're gonna see this tranquilizer gun come around in the third act, of course.
And I also thought it was really funny that they used the same prop gun for paintball
Yeah.
that they used for the trank gun.
Yeah.
They did not make it different.
That's the thing. Okay, so the assassination game is still going on. Like, to this day, it's under various different names. Like, the one at my campus was Humans versus Zombies, and it's all like Nerf guns. But like, it's still going on. But the guns had to stop looking so realistic, I think, by necessity. I think somebody was shot playing this game in the 80s, and then somebody else in the 2000s was shot to playing this game. So like, it makes sense. You want to have like very fake looking guns. I think this is the last time you could have somewhat realistic looking guns that you could pull out on a campus and shoot people with.
Yeah, because at this point, this was post like the first big school shooting, which was actually it was UT. I don't know where it was in Austin.
Oh yeah,
that was 67, I think.
That was the Starkweather, the sniper in the tower. Yeah, that was in the 70s.
But it was before Columbine, which is when shit started getting real.
Yeah.
And so that was I was like, that very first opening montage, I was like, this is a different world.
Yeah.
This is such a different world.
We were so innocent then. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those movies, or one of those bad movies that's kind of frustrating because I feel like there's a good movie in here somewhere. Like, I feel like there's a good idea for this movie. You know, we end up in a very sort of arbitrary place where, like, we learn that Sasha is actually an American from Philadelphia named Cheryl, or Pittsburgh, excuse me.
It's Pittsburgh?
Yeah, and it seems to end on a note of like those two are getting together, but then they have this.
Also in Pennsylvania?
Which one?
Is Philadelphia also in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know.
Let's talk about this final note here because firstly, it seems to end with Linda Fiorentino and Anthony Edwards like kissing and like being in a good place and having a romantic moment, and then we cut to apparently a different movie. Where Anthony Edwards is back on campus. He runs into the girl whose sweater he stained earlier, and she's still mean to him, so he's going to tranquilize her in the butt.
Well, he starts off with another one. I can't remember if it's the exact same shitty pickup line of the "I would literally kill or die to sleep with you."
I don't think it was the exact one. Like,
but it was also a pretty bad one.
Yeah.
And then she goes like, "No, creep," and then turns around and walks away. And then the camera goes to his face as he goes, "Yeah," and then it goes back to the lady, and it's just her butt as she's walking away, and then back to him, and then back to the butt, and then back to him, then back to the butt, and then back to him, and he pulls out the tranquilizer gun, and then he just shoots her in the butt, and I'm like, what?
This is like Roofies, only more violent.
Well, and
we're expected to
he's
like
going
this
to
character.
jail.
They established earlier that they had to get an ambulance for the other guys that they shot with the tranquilizer darts. They literally were putting them in ambulances. So what? Like,
what are you doing to this poor young woman who's much smaller than these guys too?
Let me tell you,
if you're gonna show like full circle, this character is no longer a dork. Why show him shooting women? Show him having a success. You know, being like, I'll go on a date with you.
Respect for women.
Oh,
yeah,
that's too much to ask
show him
for
that he
the
matured
80s.
in some way. Like, I think that's another big roadblock for this movie. I never once liked this character. Like, it's not a comment on the performance at all. I just never liked this guy as a guy.
He's a pretty unlikable person the whole way through.
And just to end the movie on such a sour note, like, kind of robs him of any kind of growth or arc or anything like that. And it's just not even a funny joke.
It's one of those things where some movies will have, like, will they, won't they moments of, like, will they turn and be the good guy? Will they turn and be the bad guy? Or will they stay and be the bad guy?
Yeah.
And this movie felt like it was having will they, won't they moments of whether or not this will be a will they, won't they moment.
Yeah.
And so it was like you, instead of being like halfway there so that you're wondering, you're like a quarter of the way there and you're like, he's not gonna do it.
Yeah.
But this could lead up to, no, okay, he's still being a dick. Never mind.
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm going to punch up this ending right now. All right. There's a Russian agent who evades capture. The guy, Anthony Edwards, is talking up the blonde girl. She's being mean to him again because, like, he was a creep last time. The Russian guy runs out, gun blazing. Anthony Edwards pulls the tranquilizer dart out of his jacket, takes the guy out really smoothly, and then the girl says, "Oh, maybe I am free for dinner tonight."
Literally,
there's a punch up right there.
Yeah,
that's a better ending. He grows. She's not being victimized. Like, it's a better ending.
I hate that because I feel like that might perpetuate into like some of the bullshit toxic masculinity.
Oh, sure.
Stuff. But also like that scene just didn't need to be a scene.
It could have just ended happily with him and Sasha.
Yeah.
It could have just been either A, that last scene with him and Sasha fade to black, or B, the next scene is just those two in a normally romantic setting.
Yeah.
Like going on a dinner date or something and having a good time.
Yeah.
they did neither. And they just threw in a scene that was literally pointless, and all it did was just showed that this guy's still addicted to women.
Yeah.
And his character growth is that instead he's of just feeling dejected, he's now empowered to be even worse of a dick to women.
He's empowered and angered.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has,
which is the worst combination.
Exactly. That's the exact kind of creeps we don't want with guns on a college campus. Yeah.
Oh my god! And like,
yeah, it's a real misstep to like. This was not a great movie before that, but it's also like, man, this is a gross note to end this movie on.
Sasha is so much more interesting.
And it's a good performance. Like,
she is so much more interesting. She's living her life. I want this movie from her perspective would just be so fascinating. Is she scoping out college kids to be couriers? Like, is she did she genuinely fall for a hairless
Jonathan.
boy?
Yeah, hairless virgin.
And she implies that she kind of did or was still interested, but they never really closed the door on whether or not that was a romantic interest or a sexual interest.
There's something so weird about like her. Like, instead of being impressed that she was his CIA agent, he's like betrayed, as though like this woman told you she was a courier.
Yeah.
She told you that she was a spy, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna ignore the fact because she's just so cute. And then like when she becomes like an American, it's somehow she's unattractive because she's an American intelligent woman.
Yeah, she's no longer an exotic
Here's the
fantasy.
kicker to me on that one. Like, she gave the twist of I'm a secret agent in the best like manner of like I'm the good secret agent.
Right.
Like, I could see him being betrayed if she turned out to be like a Russian agent or somebody who was working against the goodness of democracy. I have air quotes in my hand, on my hands, so
I can vouch for this. There are air quotes.
But she's like, no, I'm an American CIA agent. We're trying to. She never says what she's trying to do, but presumably stop bad things from happening. But it's.
But this is an interesting arc we can pursue. Exactly like this is a 24-year-old like beautiful CIA agent. Like, how did she get to be in this position of power so young? Like, is this kind of her stock and trade? Is like she being used by the CIA to be a seductress? Like, there's a complex, interesting character there, rather than just kind of like an idiot boy who learns nothing.
I feel like I have to mention this just because I just now noticed it, but your refrigerator says Steve is a big nerd.
Yes, yeah. Ailish wrote that just to
next to like the shopping list and all that.
Yeah, but I never knew this until now.
I think that there's so many things that could have happened, but they never also really put any details whatsoever into why this whole movie happened. Right. They never mention or even hint what was on the film. Was it stolen technology? Was it, information about bad things they were doing? Nothing.
Maybe there's like an angle where he's getting recruited out of college because they see how good he is at the paintball game, and like maybe he's being recruited as an operative. Maybe like there's a lot of different angles that they can take, and I feel like they waffled so much that most of the middle of the movie is just this kind of soggy, weird like meander.
He calls the CIA and like tells them what's happening, and then like he finds his apartment's been ransacked.
Yeah,
and he had the film with him apparently. And then he spots those CIA agents at the CIA office, and then he just leaves. Yeah. And I'm like, what's the game plan, my dude?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really interesting because they, clearly he's a young man who doesn't understand what love and lust is and the difference between the two.
Or just how to be a human.
Yeah.
Which is always a learning curve for every young person. But then he gets so angry and vindictive instead of just giving I'd be like, well, you hurt my feelings. Just having an adult conversation with her about like, dude, that was uncool. And he just there's something really tragic about him saying that he loves her.
Yeah.
And, after
knowing her for like 3 days.
Yeah. But there's just they could have doubled down on the romance and the like thriller, lover thriller, or romantic angles of this situation. Instead, they just left it, like you said, in this middle ground of where they're they could have shown it as a mutual romance,
Right.
Instead of this one-sided puppy dog, puppy love thing.
Yeah.
They could have shown it as like something really interesting, but they just left it in this weird in-between place. You're like, oh, you're just hooking up, but then you're falling in love. You're such a nerd. You know what I mean?
Right. And then we're left with a character who has no real charm and no real motivation kind of getting him through anything.
Here's where this is what I think, and it wasn't like some master thing, but like at the movie, it's pretty well established that he's kind of just a shitty rich kid.
Yeah.
And I think that's shitty rich kid. Shitty rich kid does shitty rich kid things.
Yeah.
And then because like he full on just tranquilizes a woman.
Yes.
In retaliation for not getting a date.
Yeah,
Which
and I think we're supposed to think this is such a cute, like, boys will be boys moment, and I'm just like, this guy is a predator.
They freeze frame her butt with the trank
They
darts.
roll the
they
credits over
absolutely
her
do.
butt. Yeah.
I'm like, that is not the tone of this movie. You needed to pick a tone.
Yeah, what the hell is the tone? That's the whole thing.
And like the entire part where they make up is literally just him being mad at her, being like, "Oh, you don't care, you don't want me," and then her something along the lines of like, "I know what I want." And it's like, "What is it?" And he's like, "I want you." But she says it in such a way that is not romantic. It's just full on like aggressively like let's go right now. And I was like,
yeah, it's not even fun in like an espionage movie kind of way. It's like where you could never fully trust her. Yeah.
And the delivery also wasn't like, I want to be with you. It was just like, I just want to sleep with you. And I'm like, wait.
I mean, true to form for the character, I guess, but still.
And then it literally cuts from like them standing together to just him now back on his campus walking. I guess they were on campus or something at that point. But him just walking down the sidewalk, and that scene happens, and it's like, why did we go? Again, that scene didn't need to be there. No scene needed to be there. But if it was going to be a scene,
it should have been
and
something better
even
than that.
Why couldn't they have made it a paintball hitting her butt?
Make it a paintball. Exactly. That's
at least then it's not a crime.
It's in keeping with the theme
it might
of
still
the
be
movie,
a crime.
And it's like now it's like, all right, so he stained her clothes and like because she was being a jerk and he did something to like give her comeuppance. That's a status thing, and that's potentially a little funny. Tranking her is just the wrong thing to end on.
The paintball is at least something that could potentially, especially at that time period, be put under that dumb banner of boys will be boys.
Yeah.
Although, like,
that's more harmless.
Again, boys will be boys is the harmless thing. And that wasn't harmless.
No.
Like, paintballs aren't fun, presumably, to get hit by. Also, neither is
bruise.
getting covered in paint.
We should talk about it. I'm curious.
Speaking of paintballs.
Yeah, all right. We're going to transition a little bit here. You've heard us cover this movie in great detail. What kind of video game do you think would tie into a movie that we just described? Well, if you're having trouble figuring out the answer, that's because there is nothing really connecting it.
Leisure Suit Larry?
Leisure Suit Larry, yeah, that could
okay.
work. Here's kind of the backstory of how this movie became an NES video game. So this movie came out in 1985 in May. It made $10 million on an $8 million budget. So it's like one of those like, all right, we got away with something. We made just enough money to be happy, but like this is not going to be a continuing thing for us.
The studio doesn't hate us for the rest of our lives.
Exactly.
We're not getting like blacklisted.
But we're still in this phase in the 80s. I think the 80s is when this was running especially rampant because we're in a post-Star Wars world at this point. And movie studios aren't just thinking about ticket sales. They're thinking about merchandise. How can we merchandise every single thing that we have? What licenses do we have? How can we make this happen? So the phenomenon of paintball had come around in about 1981. It wasn't just being played on campuses. It was kind of becoming more popular nationwide. And so Universal is thinking, okay, maybe we can get in on this. We have a slightly paintball-related movie.
Slightly.
Let's parlay this with a deal with LJN Toys, and let's parlay this into a paintball game that we can sell at a Toys R Us, something that's not going to leave horrific bruises on kids because that's just a liability nightmare. So they developed the Gotcha line of paintball guns. So these are, there were a couple of sets. There's the Enforcer, which is 2 pistols, and there's the Commando, which is kind of a shotgun looking thing. This is sort of like diet paintball at this point, because obviously if you sell regular paintballs to where like very young kids can get it, anyone who's ever been shot with a paintball can attest, those things leave a bruise. They really hurt at certain ranges, so you can be facing a lot of lawsuits. So what the Gotcha guns did was softened everything. These came with kind of softer sponge pellets. In order to activate these, you had to take the little cartridge for the gun, soak it in boiling water until it would the timer went off, and then you had to load it back in. This was leaving invisible ink on you, so you didn't need to worry about your clothes staining or anything like that. The problem is these bullets are so lightweight that you need to be extremely close for them to hit anybody, and the ink disappears so quickly that you can't tell if people have been hit. So basically you have a paintball game that's not that nobody's going to be happy with. So this line kind of died pretty quickly. However, Gotcha has kind of become the Kleenex of paintball. You know how if you reach for a tissue, you always say, "Oh, give me a Kleenex." That's what Gotcha is for paintball. The brand is still going today. It's become more of an actual paintball thing. There are at least 3 paintball ranges within a 2-hour drive of us in Texas right now that are called Gotcha Paintball. There was a video game in 2004 that's called Gotcha Paintball. So this license outlived this movie in pretty much every way. But this video game that we're talking about today was released for the NES in 1987, and it was meant to tie into the toys that were tied into the movie that we just described. So it's a very long, circuitous path to get us to a paintball-themed NES game. Before we get too much further into the game, I do want to ask about the actual paintball experience of who has it and what their experience is. J-Man, I know you have some experience with this.
I did. I do. Well, first off, growing up in Michigan, there's lots of people there's lots of woods and snow. So probably when I was in high school or college, I can't really remember. My family, we'd rent paintball guns, and we'd have these battle royales at my brother's girlfriend's father's farm. And it would be horrifying because the paintballs would freeze. You have a bunch of padding on because you have padding on because it's cold, but the paintballs would freeze and they would get they'd break in the barrel, and so you'd have to be cleaning your barrel, field cleaning your barrel whilst playing the game and freezing your tuchus off. And
you can say ass.
ass. Sorry, Justin said I could say ass. I'm going to keep saying ass.
So we would play these battle royales that would be one time some guy, I have no idea who he was, just some random dude that
Mitt Romney.
Probably. So Mitt was running, and in Michigan we have these giant wild rose bushes, giant wild rose bushes, the size maybe 12 feet tall, ridiculous. And he runs past this and he thinks he's clear, but instead the rose bush grabs his crotch and
it's worse than I thought.
It rips his pants off clear from his crotch all the way to his ankle. And you think even that little part of jeans that you think would cut, that ripped as well. And so he was of course it got some of his skin as well. And it was just he's I can't remember whether or not he called it a day or whether or not he just soldiered on. But it was.
I'd call it a day. Personally, I'm just gonna say I have thorns in my dick. I'm calling it a day.
Now I'm just imagining the legends of the pantless warrior. He's
he rode forth with rose thorns sticking from his protuberance.
He fought so hard his pants ripped off. And then he continued fighting until the battle was done.
And that's why they call him Dick Thorns to this day.
And when I was living in Scotland, I was part of a paintball society, but we used reballs, which are you lower the velocity, and they're like rubber balls, and you can play them indoors. And that was really fun.
That sounds more pleasant.
It is like it is, and is it? Because it's closer. It's closer quarters. Like you, instead of getting injured by like the paintballs necessarily, you get injured by throwing yourselves over things. And like dashing behind things, because it's like you're in a gym, but it's got like all of these like inflatable things to hide behind.
Yeah.
And it gets really bad when people don't tell the truth about whether or not they've been hit, and you're like, I hit you. I hit you. And they're like,
hit
oh,
you.
you didn't hit me.
So you just club them with the rifle. You're just like, all right.
That's the one
fuck
thing
it,
about
I'm done.
paintballs. Like
You can tell.
You can tell when they hit. Usually, like, except for, again, if they freeze, then sometimes they just hurt.
That would break the skin, I think, at that point. Yeah.
You know, it's so funny because I've always had such pleasant experiences paintballing, except for when I was paintballing with my brother. He's the only person who broke rules and regulations and shot me from 6 feet away.
Oh my God, I've been shot close range with a paintball in the top of my head. My friend
Yeah.
came over and thought it'd be funny to do like execution style on me. Like sneaking up behind me, and
Now you have back problems.
now I have back problems. I blame it for the totally flat back of my head. I'm gonna assume that's why that happened. But yeah, those things really can mess you up. Like, I can understand the rationale behind using the little soft spongy ones for the gotcha sets, but yeah, those things can mess you up. I don't think I've played paintball in like 15 years probably, but I used to have roommates who were really into it, but they were more in they liked to like wear camo and like blend into the woods and like disappear and do like kind of a high stakes kind of sniper game. And me, I can't sit still that long.
See, I could sit still in a forest for a really long time, even in the cold. However, like, you got like this. The way you win the game is just not to move.
Yeah.
And that's a really boring way to play the game.
It's really boring.
Like, and this is like, I don't. It wasn't before cell phones, but I didn't have my cell phone to be out and playing with it in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
I think maybe nowadays that I'd be like out in the middle of the woods, just finding a really good hiding spot and climbing a tree and just being all like,
Look,
playing the
there's
TikTok.
a Pinterest recipe I need. Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah.
You've got your earbuds in. You're just like rocking out.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're gonna go play paintball then.
I am
would.
down. Group paintball.
I'd be
yeah.
down.
too.
As long as we can go to a range where it's like you're actually trying to shoot at each other and not
Yeah.
just hiding. That's no fun for
I
me.
I almost got to play paintball for the first time. I had a friend who was starting to organize a group of people, and then the pandemic happened, and
Oh,
we were
yeah.
like, ha, 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 no.
Yeah.
And as all things happened during the course of the pandemic,
Things
that
were great
group-
and happy and everyone had fun.
No.
Oh, damn.
That group chat disappeared.
Yeah.
It very quickly became forgotten.
Ugh.
In a relic of a different era.
Well, hopefully you had the itch scratched with Gotcha the Sport. That's the name of the game we played. It's for the NES. It's from 1987. It's from LJN. LJN is a company we're going to encounter a lot on this show. You might know it from its signature rainbow logo. LJN was a toy manufacturer through the 70s and 80s. They got bought by Acclaim, which is a video game company, in the 1980s. And they basically made LJN solely a video game developer, and they made them work almost exclusively on really rushed tie-ins to movies. So we've got Friday the 13th to look forward to, Nightmare on Elm Street, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Back to the Future, movies
Excuse
like
me. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
that. It has a video
That
game.
has a game?
It sure does. Not a
Okay.
good one. I'm going to spoil that now. It's not good. Jaws. Yeah, they did a Jaws game, a bunch of that
So
stuff.
this was I think I've probably mentioned it before, but I don't remember. I have some memory issues, and so there's a large span of my life that's just kind of gone. And I know at some point I used a light gun on the NES because we had Duck Hunt.
Oh, yeah.
But actually, now that I think about it, I just remembered that I think we had Duck Hunt, but not the light gun. So I may not have ever used the light gun.
Interesting.
Before.
That
But
is-
if I did, it's the memory of it is not there.
So this is part of the reason why this game was so complicated to play. A lot of these games I'm playing using an emulator because, you know, it's just kind of an easier option and it plays well on my HD TV. This game is a light gun game. It uses the Nintendo Zapper, which is an iconic light gun from the 80s. You know it from its orange plastic. But the only thing with the Zapper is that it only works on CRT TVs. I still have my old CRT TV, but I did not have an NES anymore. So I had to find an NES. I had to find a copy of this game. The controller was sent to me separate, and then I went to open the bag with a pair of scissors, and I accidentally cut the cord in the middle of the controller.
Oh my gosh!
Because let me check my notes here. I am a dumbass. I wrote that down in case I forgot because I'm such a dumbass.
That's like a sucker punch.
It is. So I had to go find another controller just so I can make sure that this game actually worked. The good news is Gotcha is a very gettable game. It's $1.
I was gonna ask, yeah, was the NES harder or was the game harder?
NES
what was harder,
harder.
the NES, the game, or the movie itself?
I think the movie itself might have been the hardest to find because we had to go through all kinds of different channels. Like, it's not streaming anywhere. It's not streaming on iTunes, which is usually my go-to if nothing's streaming anywhere. Same with Tubi. That's my other go-to if nothing exists anywhere. Go to Tubi. They usually have it. Tubi did not have this. So I had to order a DVD that is no longer in print.
Who even has a DVD or a DVD player?
I have I use my PlayStation for DVD purposes. Yeah. So I had to track all that down, and then luckily the game itself was $1.25, so that was pretty lucky to find, and you can find that one pretty much anywhere, because this is a game that can only exist on this system with only this controller, and it's a game you can beat in 5 minutes. Is that about how long it took us to complete a whole run?
I think
5 minutes or less. I think it's the
maybe 7 minutes.
So I'm going to go ahead and ruin everybody's day and say that this NES game does not carry over any of the erotic tension from the movie or any of the plot or any of the espionage.
But it does have some punks.
Some of those pixels were looking a little curvy. Basically, we have a light gun shooter that lasts for 3 levels. This one has a weird mechanic where you need to be using the NES controller to move left and right because it's capture the flag. You have to make it to the end of the level, shoot the flag, and then make it all the way back before the other team makes it back with your flag. This is quite easy to do. I think all three of us
beginner
placed
level.
In the beginner level.
Intermediate was also doable. Advanced was almost impossible, if not actually impossible.
It gets pretty tricky, but the thing with using these light guns is it takes a little bit to calibrate yourself, and you have to figure out where your aim is. So once you do a round or two to kind of figure out how the game works, you're going to blaze through this pretty easily.
I love light gun games.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go to my local cinema and I would pour quarters in playing Area 51.
I love Area 51. I could probably still play Area 51 just on muscle memory.
I think I could too. And it was just so I love shooting things with an actual gun. Like a third person or first person shooter with a joystick.
Doesn't feel quite the same.
If you have to, you have to. But it's just not as much fun as shooting it with and it brought all these nostalgic feels back.
Yeah.
And I loved when you shot them. I loved their physical reaction to getting shot because it's not the quite same as seeing a duck fall out of the sky.
No,
but it's still very enjoyable.
You were getting pretty surgical with this. You were trying to play from farther and farther ranges, and you were getting quite good at this game by the end.
I love shooting games.
Yeah. I'm glad we got to mix it up with one shooting game because I feel like most of what we're playing are platformers, which you said you struggle with in the past. So at least this one you get to bust some caps in people, some paint caps.
I frequently feel inadequate playing video games, and I do not feel that way with a light gun game.
No way. Yeah, I mean, I honestly this game is incredibly short and really pretty simple, both in terms of difficulty and just in terms of ambition. But I had kind of a good time with this game. I don't know about y'all, but I'm with you, J-Ben. I'm very into light gun games, so I'm a little predisposed to like this. But I kind of had fun with this thing.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a lot less of that nostalgia because I don't remember really ever using one before, and the local arcade closed before I was 8.
Oh,
so
shit.
then we just never had an arcade.
Luckily, they're all barcades now. So
yeah.
they're coming back.
which I mean that's good because they have something else to sell, but I also don't drink, so the
Right,
part
yeah.
doesn't matter to me. I'm just
Oh,
like,
that's right. Oh God, they keep
pinballs. What's up?
they keep designing all these different arcades around, like snubbing you, basically.
For real. But then I've played a little bit, somewhat recently at Pinballs, which is an arcade here in Austin. I think it's just Austin. I don't know if they've got other stuff.
Pretty
but
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before elsewhere.
At least they're in the like Tri-City area: Austin, Dallas, Houston.
Yeah.
Are you calling Austin, Dallas, Houston a tri?
don't-
That's not what
They're
probably-
pretty
that is
far
not a
apart.
tri-city.
San Antonio would
They're-
probably be more of the try.
It's
in that, right?
a much bigger gap, but it's the only parts of Texas that are worth being.
It's Austin, Round Rock, Buda. That's the triangle. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
maybe you throw in San Marcos.
Oh sure. Yeah, they can come if they want. Yeah, but it's
I think you're a little geographically challenged.
Yeah, I mean it's like about 3 hours to each from here. So,
Yeah.
But like to me, those are the only 3 cities that matter in Texas. Everything else is kind of
San Antonio
just
matters.
there. San Antonio is.
Because
I will
we
not
go to
stand-
Six Flags.
I will not
Give
stand
us-
for this Bastrop
Give it-
erasal.
Yeah, I don't.
I've never
Look,
been to
You're-
Bastrop.
you're,
I don't know.
you're
Bastrop
doing
tried
some
to
hot
erase
takes.
itself at one
You're doing
point.
some hot takes.
I'm a new Texan. I can't.
Are you gonna
comment.
ask Steve to delete this so you don't get hate
No.
from the rest of Texas?
Oh no,
No.
I'm gonna put this in and triple it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
fine. No, I mean yeah, San Antonio is also pretty cool. But if you give it 5 to 10 years, you will not be able to tell that you have left Austin when you get to San Antonio.
Is that true? See, I haven't been there yet, but yeah.
Like at least now there are some points where you're like, oh, I don't think we're in a town right now, but soon as things keep growing, because that's the channel that it's kind of growing along.
Yeah.
At least one of the channels. Buda has gotten taller. Basically, everything is just going around there, and soon it'll just be suburbia. It'll be Austin, suburbia, and then San Antonio.
Yeah. I mean,
Getting there.
to bring it back to Gotcha the sport, I can't really bring it back to Gotcha the sport. I think we talked about every single part. This is the first time we've like actually beaten the game sitting down to just talk about it. It did not take us long. We spent less time with this than we did with the Mummy game, and we beat it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, and I think
It's one of those things like where I think I'd be pissed if I paid full price for this back in the 80s. Like it's an okay little diversion now. I think I'd probably be pissed if I paid full price for this.
Yeah, I think in terms of actual gameplay, there's a little bit of variety. There are some enemies that will just kind of pop up and be ready to shoot at you. There's some enemies that will run into position and shoot at you. There's some enemies that'll like pop out of a tree or climb up a tree and then shoot at you.
My favorite part was when I realized that they're trying to steal our flag too, and you can take them
Yes.
out as they're running back. Like you
Yeah.
can cross
Yeah.
paths.
But
But that is a weird mechanic. You're using the D-pad to walk all the way to the right, shoot the flag, walk all the way back to the left.
yeah,
I
and
think this is the type of thing that you'd rent from a Blockbuster.
yes,
Yes, a blockbuster for the
Did they
children
have
out
a
there.
Blockbuster?
Is,
When did
yeah, no.
Blockbuster start?
That was in the 80s. Yeah,
Was
that
it
was
the
that was
80s?
mid. That was like
Okay.
85, 86.
So this
That
would've
was
been-
when the home video market was taking off.
Would have been about that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I don't think it was a bad experience. I just think it was lackluster in length.
And it
And
has
if it went longer, maybe having a bit more variety going on. But
it has the barest minimum amount to do with the movie. Like this is I'm gonna challenge ourselves from now on to look for a game that has less to do with the movie that we were talking about.
So it did have punks, but it didn't. But the punks were bad guys.
Yeah, the punks in the movie were pointedly very sweet and
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, these are
these were
street
a little
punks.
more of like biker greaser
Well,
punks.
Yeah.
And they could have put them in suits, leather suits, and made them East Germans or Russians.
This could have been this could have
That
been a
could have
leather
been the
suit level
tie-in.
because we didn't really have a forest or a snow level in the movie.
You could have been paintballing on the streets of Paris. You could have been paintballing in East Germany, and then
Yeah.
you could have been paintballing in
in
the streets
UK.
of America.
This is a globe hopping movie. Yeah.
I don't think you go to the UK because they never did in the movie.
I'm low key keeping track of how many video games we have that actually has a female character.
And
None.
what are we at? So far we are at
1 in 4.
0?
1 in 4, because technically the mummy's a girl.
That's true. Yeah, I mean she's not a player character, but
Yeah.
she is. Yeah,
She is a female.
Wayne's World didn't even have like a female enemy.
Wayne's
E.T.
World
didn't have.
had 2 people.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
Wayne and Garth.
2 people and a bunch of bagpipes. Yeah,
Pretty much.
And kazoos.
and kazoos. Those fucking
Well, it's
kazoos.
funny because so I enjoyed this game probably the most from all the games that we've played so far, but it's definitely not the hardest at all by a long shot.
No,
Unless you set it to advanced, in which case, good luck. You're not even going to make it halfway down the field.
And that's where the replayability comes in. It's like, all right, just try these same 3 levels on a different difficulty, but like it's never gonna get more complicated than walk and shoot and walk and shoot and walk and shoot. You know, and
I mean,
also the music in this is real bad.
Did you guys ever play Capture the Flag in Call of Duty?
yes.
I don't think
Halo
I-
and various video games.
Here's my confession. I almost never play competitive video games because
man.
I am checking my notes soft boy. I have a notepad full of insults for myself. I just keep it in here.
There was a period of time where me and some friends were like doing the MLG like online orchestrated tournaments and stuff. The amount of times I told people to touch grass was very high.
Okay.
What does that mean, touch grass?
that like
it means
teabagging?
finally leave your gaming space, go outside, touch some grass, because dear God, you haven't done it in a while.
I see. That's like my mom telling me to go outside and play because I've been playing Gotcha on the NES for 6 hours.
Yeah. And so we were real sweaty boys. And back in the day, whenever you played a game, the game would be over, and you would end up in like a post-game lobby where now mics are free. You can shit talk as much as you want.
There we go. Okay.
However, I was a good boy and I did not swear at home, so I had to be creative with the way I shit talked people.
Also, I love that you turned into Johnny Carson for a second
Give me
there.
an example of a shit talk that doesn't have a curse word.
Oh yes, that's right.
A lot. We got real creative with your mom insults.
Your mother did a poor job raising you.
Yeah, honestly, stuff like that. I would always go to my.
Okay, just imagine I just shot you in the face in a Call of Duty.
Well, this would be the way it works. Is most of the time it wasn't live during the game. It was only before the game, which is like, yeah, good game, whatever. Then after the game, where now we have 15 to 20 minutes of pent up frustrations at each other to go vent. And so I would always go for the things of like, I would try to get like psychological with it. Of
no.
Are you so mad because you don't get hugged enough?
Oh.
Do your
Okay.
parents love you?
I mean,
that was the direction I went.
see that I'm feeling that sting a little bit.
A swear
already.
word is nicer to use. I'd rather be like.
I'd rather be called an asshole.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you about my Dota 2 career.
Oh God.
That was the one. That was the game where that was the first time I ever was playing a game, and I was like, I just hate this experience, and I'm never gonna do this again. And then I took a solid step back from competitive games, and now when I play them, I am a much more chill person. I also used to be a very angry person overall.
Yeah.
So that kind of fits in.
The few times I'm playing competitive games, it's either one-on-one on the couch, like both of us are playing a fighting game or something like that, or it's something like where there are no chat functions, or I can mute the chat function. Like I like Fall Guys a lot, which is like a really fun
Yeah.
game, but like that's something where you're not going to interact with the many racist children online. I have no
Not all
int-
the children are these days.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad children online.
But to J-Ban's point, I have played Capture the Flag in many video games over the years.
Yeah, it was like a Halo standard for a long time, I think. Were you a Capture the
One
Flag person,
two
Jaden?
flag.
I did Call of Duty. I was so bad at Halo.
I was too.
Like I was, and my siblings were so good at it. I did not play it much because they destroyed me so quickly in that game, and I was like, and it was just like, why can I be decent at Call of Duty but I suck at Halo? But it was true.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It is weird how like those very similar seeming skill sets do not translate. Because I was the same way. Like I'm very good at something like Borderlands or something, but I'm really bad at Halo. I don't know. Go figure.
I was really good at picking things up quickly and being above average but then capping out. Like I'd hit the ceiling early and be like, all right, I'm not gonna get any better. Sometimes it's because I didn't care enough, and I'm like, the things I have to do to get better at the game at this point involve learning things, memorizing maps and proper like sight lines and all that.
I refuse to learn.
Counter-Strike a little bit, and I'm like, this is just more effort than I want to be good at.
Yeah.
But
no, that's kind of where I always end up too.
I was usually in like the upper quarter of my friend groups of like, I'm not the one that everyone's like, oh yeah, if we're playing with him, he's gonna be great. But I was like the one where they're like, oh hey,
yeah,
finally somebody else that's gonna carry the load. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be second place on the team consistently. I'm fine with that.
I don't know if this question is too early in our correspondence of this podcast.
Sure,
because this is a very important question.
Bring it on.
My question is, so what video game do you think deserves a movie?
Oh, I have that locked and loaded, and I've actually, like, a low-key dream of mine is to one day write a screenplay for this. Metroid. I think Metroid would make an amazing movie. I would do it animated, but, like, you don't need to. I think it would be amazing. Metroid is dark, it's mysterious, and it doesn't have all of its mythology like kind of locked and loaded. It's not like a Star Wars where everybody knows every little corner of this universe. It's still pretty ambiguous, so you can build it out a little bit.
Okay.
That's mine.
Do you got one, Justin?
Well, I think the one that would have been my go-to for this became a TV show in the last year.
It's Gotcha.
Yeah. Being The Last of Us.
Oh yeah.
And so the game that will always be near and dear to my heart is the original Halo game.
Okay.
Because it was the first time where it was like, we have fun gameplay, colors, explosions. It looks good for the time. We have like an orchestral soundtrack, and now we've got like militant drums behind it. Like the soundtrack was incredible.
It was, yeah.
And they've done cool, fun things with Halo in small projects, but
there's a good podcast. There's some novels. Yeah,
the books are good, and they've done some like mini series. Forward Unto Dawn was one. But when they actually tried to make like a Halo thing of like, this is going to be stuff, Paramount was like, hey, we don't really know what Halo is, but we have this guy and we have these aliens. We're just going to, it's like they took all of that and like put the dolls out and then just like grabbed them and started playing with them. There's like a romance subplot, and it's like,
that's the crazy thing. There is a whole, for people who rightfully don't know what you're talking about, there's a whole season-long TV show of Halo on Paramount Plus, and I completely forgot it existed until you mentioned it.
Everybody should, because it should never be a thing.
I heard it's kind of bad. Yeah.
What should have happened was a movie. The first Halo game would have made a great like action thriller.
Peter Jackson was trying to make one for years.
A fairly silent protagonist. He's not a man of many words, but he does talk. He does have some kind of a personality.
Yeah.
He doesn't necessarily like tell jokes, but the things that he says, the way he delivers them, you're like
dryly funny.
Yeah, like the dry kind of sarcastic type of humor. At one point, he's like pushing a big ass bomb around that has been set on a human space station to blow it up, and they're like, "What are you about to do?" And he's like, "I'm gonna bring the Covenant back their bomb," and then pushes it off, and then jumps and like dives down into gravity to return the bomb.
Sure.
And so there's so many cool thematic action stuff. I don't think it would make like an incredibly great movie, but it would make like a solid, like the first Pacific Rim, which I thought was pretty good.
I like that movie.
I love.
Such
it's
a
one
good
of my
time.
sick day movies. It's Pacific Rim and Ever After.
It's so
I think
fun.
it would.
It's so
it
fun.
would land into that category of like, this is like a pretty good movie, like an 80% Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody who's familiar with it would be like, yeah, this was a good time.
Like
I
a
thoroughly
gotcha,
enjoyed
like a
this.
gotcha kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead we've gotten garbage and canceled projects.
Yeah.
They used to do really good live action teasers and trailers for the games.
Yeah.
And those were always super fun.
Yeah.
And of course, Red versus Blue.
Yeah. Red vs.
Yeah.
Blue is big.
But
Yeah.
I think my choice would be BioShock.
Yes,
That's
I love
also a
BioShock
really
so much.
good one. Especially again, it's like a little more on like the horror psychological thriller side.
That setting,
so scary.
Such a good setting.
The setting for
world.
both that and with Infinite. Like I love the underwater and I love the up in the sky, and you could sand off some of the kind of libertarian-y edges of that story and kind of make a really good show. Like that setting just kind of tells the story itself.
And similar to what they did with The Last of Us, where there's a lot of times in that things that happen in the game that if you have the main character of a show where people are supposed to be, vulnerable, if you have them go run and gun through 35 soldiers, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But they redid those types of moments with things that did the same purpose. Like, okay, this is about the human vulnerability. We took away all of the unrealistic parts of video games, and we didn't try to replicate that type of scene.
Yeah.
At least, like, not as much as other things have tried in the past. Like the Doom movie.
Oh, God, that movie's so bad.
But I think it was pretty good. And I think BioShock is one of those things where, like, there are some things that doesn't carry over super well.
Yeah.
But so much of it, and especially the story, the setting, the characters, both regular. I've seen somebody play BioShock 1, and I've played Infinite. And both of those are fantastic stories and experiences that I think would make a really good thriller.
So Hollywood, if you're listening to this, we're all writers and performers. We can do this. Just give us a call. Just trust us that we're good. We're good. We get it. We're gonna do it. We'll do a better job than we did with Gotcha. But I had a fun time digging through this weird ass movie, like digging up this movie. I always like I don't mean to like kind of toot my own horn, but like I have this weird encyclopedic knowledge of movies, and it's weird for me to come across a movie that I just have no knowledge or understanding of, and that I need to work to sort of find. And that's a pretty satisfying experience. So like I appreciated the effort of trying to find this movie, even if it was ultimately kind of mediocre. And I appreciate the really weird story that led to it becoming a paintball phenomenon. Like that's so bizarre to me. But thank you guys for bearing with me on this one, and I'm glad we got to seek this one out together. So, and thank you everybody for listening. We have a very interesting episode coming up next week. Another game that you guys may not be aware existed.
Forgot something.
What did we forget? We haven't rated it.
We haven't rated it.
You
Sorry,
are
I stole your
absolutely
thunder.
correct. Oh my God, I am so sorry.
I stole your thunder because I was so shocked that I forgot, because I was ready to do it earlier.
And I actually don't totally know where everyone's going with this. So are we rating this from good movie, good game, good movie, bad game, bad movie, good game, or bad movie, bad game? Let's start with J-Ban. Where are you with this one?
I am bad movie, good game.
There it is. There it is. Codified.
I think I have to do the same thing. Bad movie, good game. I think the movie was worse than The Mummy, the one that we watched, at least.
Oh, I don't know. I think I have to go Mummy is worse, but yeah.
I
This
think
was
they're
more
neck
of
and
a-
neck.
I think they go blow for blow.
This
at
is more of a
times.
disappointment than like a
Yeah.
disaster. Yeah.
And then the game, while again short, is fun. If it was like an arcade game, that'd play pretty well.
I think I'm right there with you, but with like this is a bad movie qualified good game. This is a
Asterisk.
It's an asterisk low game. This
It's
is
a good game if you don't want to play it for longer than 2 hours.
It's low on the
Maybe
totem
even 1
pole.
hour.
It's kind of like on the line of games that I would sort of recommend, but it's also like it's functional enough. It worked, and I had a good time with it. This is not a masterpiece. This is not a very ambitious project, and it's not going to sustain you for long.
I wonder what the best light gun game was.
Oh, it's Time Crisis.
Okay.
I'm calling it. I don't know. Oh, you know what? I'm going to give you an actual answer, and I think a lot of people might be surprised by this one. It is Starsky and Hutch for the PS2. It's based on the 70s TV show, and the reason it's great is because one person drives the car, the other person shoots the gun out the window of the car. So you have a light gun and you have a driving game. It's a great co-op experience. It's really stupid, but it's a lot of fun.
Honestly, I love that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
love cooperative games where each person isn't the same.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Like
I
asymmetrical co-op.
It's an idea that isn't followed up on very much, but the Starsky and Hutch game, a lot of fun. What's yours? Is it Area 51?
I think the original Duck Hunt.
Oh, original duck hunt, going classic.
And I
with
don't
it.
know whether or not that's true
With
or
the
it's
little
just
beagle.
so like
It's just very iconic.
yeah, it's very iconic. And
I'm
there's-
I'm a dog lover, and I always tried to shoot the hell out of that dog. I think all of us tried to shoot the hell out of that dog because you miss a duck and he laughs at you, and I'm just like, fuck you, fuck you. You can't kill the dog. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know.
Okay, I interrupted you wrapping us up.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, no, I appreciate you.
We
you
were firmly in the Midwestern goodbye territory.
You were. No, you were bringing me back on track. I appreciate it. I totally forgot that element of the show. Mostly because I was excited to tell you guys what we're talking about next time. That's gonna be Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh my god! I fucking love this movie.
An insane movie, an even crazier game somehow. And we're going to get into exactly all the different ways that, because, again, this is another movie that does not necessarily scream for a video game adaptation, but the one they came out with is pretty wild.
When did this one come out?
This was 1992.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's possible I may have seen it, but I don't know.
And they show it at Alamo Draft House on a regular
They
basis.
do. You're in for a treat if you have not seen this one. It's a
Okay.
Francis Ford Coppola. Very, very, very maximalist take on Dracula. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I think you guys are going to be entertained by this game as well.
I will be in heaven. I've also read the novel Dracula 4 or 5 times.
I appreciate that. This is one of those novels where I've kind of osmosed it through cultural knowledge, but I've never actually sat and read the novel itself. So
It's an epistolary novel.
Yeah.
So it's all written in letters, and it's so good.
Yes.
Look, I only know that Dracula is a vampire and does vampire things.
Does vampire things.
So it'll be a good time.
And it's kind of on the verge of another Coppola playing a Dracula. As we're talking about this, like Nick Cage is about to play Dracula in Renfield, which this will be later by the time everybody's hearing this. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we're putting together plans to see that. So.
Yes, we got to make that happen. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for tagging along with us on our Gotcha episode, and we will see you next week for Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's a Dracula laugh. Bye.